Welcome to the Tech Commute. Great to have everybody here. Everybody will start trickling in. I did turn the chat off the screen because I knew it was gonna cover that beautiful set you have there at Torres. And I didn't want to do that to you because I wanna feature that, and I really want to dive into that because we have the pleasure of having Lewis Menelaws. Did I say it right?
You did, yeah.
With us
Thank you.
today. Lewis, the proprietor of the wonderful Coding with Lewis YouTube channel. For anybody that's not familiar with it, you should be. I have it here somewhere. Wait for it. Boom, there it is. Make sure you go subscribe. You can always also check out Lewis's personal page with his blog and about me, and he's got great content there. But anyway, without further ado, interruption or delay, I'll let Lewis introduce himself. Lewis, go ahead.
Yeah, I am coding with Lewis. That's why I go by online. I just make videos about coding, technology, and just try and make them as entertaining as possible. That's what the videos are all about, entertainment. So that's kind of how I go about the whole thing.
Oh, I love that. He says just about software, just about coding. Well, why don't we start from the beginning a little bit? Like, what came first, your interest in software development or coding, or the content side of it? Because at some point they sort of have to marry, but one usually comes
Yeah.
first. So what's your background?
Well, it's funny because I think from the very beginning, it was almost kind of like a bit of a harmony, I guess. So I remember back in 2006, I was like 12 years old or something like that, and Roblox, which is still very famous now for young people. That's the game I hopped on, and I wanted to make videos for YouTube about. And in order to do it, similar to what made the game popular now, you can build your own sets, you can do all that. And then what you would need to do is some scripting using Lua, which I think to this day still uses. And that's where it kind of like started. So it really was always a bit of a harmony. But I guess like when it comes to the serious aspect of it, coding definitely came first for my just for the love of video games, and then eventually it came in to this. So yeah.
Wow. So Roblox is like such a stepping stone for so many people. Like sometimes I've heard so many stories where people are coming from a game. They come from like that entertainment side of it, and it piques their interest in trying to figure out how to manipulate it, how
Yeah.
to do this with it, how to do that with it. And that seems to really like scratch the surface for a lot of people. What was what was for you? What was that first like hello world moment?
I think just like, I mean, not specifically, but I think when I would like create like doors in Roblox, and there was like the simple if statement where it was like, if your username is this, you can get into the VIP room.
Mm.
That was basically it. You would just have a list of, you would have a string of the person's name, and then if it matched, they could go in, and that was it. And I think that that's why that's like how I got started in the whole thing. That's how I see it, at least.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's so funny. The simple door that opened so many for you for further on. So what? So let's kind of talk about. I mean, for anybody again that doesn't know, coding with Lewis, you have at this point almost 650,000 subscribers,
Yeah.
ish 630 something like that. Maybe I,
Yeah, something like that.
yeah.
And then on
I,
TikTok and Instagram, about like 500,000 there, like combined. So I think
wow.
like 1.2 million, I think, across everywhere. Yeah.
Oh
So
my
it's
god.
insanely privileged. Yeah.
Oh, that is so crazy. And I love how like humbly you approach it. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's like a million plus, but
Well, it's an honest privilege. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of
yeah,
the day,
yeah,
it's a privilege to do this as a job and all that.
yeah. What was the first couple videos like for you? I mean, everybody, most of the people here, I've got Dominic here, Richard's here, Pam and Jeff. Great to see all of you and everybody else on Twitter and LinkedIn and Twitch, everywhere you are. It's great to have you. But a lot of people are trying to step into creating content. And one of the biggest things is taking that first step. Like for you, what was that like? Can you kind of talk us through maybe some of your apprehensions with doing it, if you remember, and like what you had to do it?
Oh yeah. I think for me the thing that was the hardest when it came to YouTube was finding like at what point do I find the quality acceptable enough for YouTube, because
Mm.
we were talking about this just a little bit before, but like, when you have good taste of things, it's a bit of a curse, right? You look at someone else's videos and you're like, oh, this is like, they're just way better than mine. But I think what happened for me is when TikTok came around and started to become really popular, people didn't want the highly edited things. They wanted the really personal things, the things that it felt like you were being FaceTime to. And so I started making videos where I literally was just recording myself with my iPhone. And then if I had to show like my code on screen, I would just point my camera to the screen, right? Like in the most interesting way possible. And I think that mentality of being like, at the end of the day, the story is what matter. You can't spend 3,000 on a camera, 1,000 on a microphone, lots on your set, and hide the fact that maybe this story you're telling isn't good. That always comes first.
So let's kind of talk about that, because that is something that you and I were talking about backstage before we started here, and this is something that I've preached as well. For anybody that doesn't know my background, I spent a very long time in the film industry, so this is something that I talk to people a lot about, is just do it, right? Like, just get out there. You have a good concept. It doesn't necessarily matter how you shoot it or what you're shooting it with, and and can you kind of talk about that a little bit, Lewis? I mean, you mentioned you just were turning your phone around,
Yeah.
but the idea was there. The idea and the quality of the content was good enough that was okay. That's fine. So has that been something that's evolved for you now that you're making more content, or are you still kind of sticking to that formula of focusing on the content first?
The content always definitely comes first. Like I always think the idea has to come first before anything. So
Mm,
if I feel like the idea is just a little bit boring or it's not like raising the stakes a little bit, then we just kind of move on to another idea. But of course, like I have a huge passion and making sure that the quality of the videos is exceptional all the time, just because that's also a passion of mine specifically as well.
hmm.
So again, that is something I do a lot, and sometimes I do spend a lot of time on something that really isn't going to kind of yield results in the end, but it's just because of the passion. But I truly believe that all of that is secondary compared, like as long as the idea is good. If you would think the idea is good and you'd click on a video or a blog post, then that's all that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. What do you do? What do you do to come up with your ideas? Like, how's the like workflow as far as like the thought process or coming up with the ideas for the content creation? I think for me too, and maybe some other people that are in the audience here, just even coming up with the idea is a challenge. So what works for you?
That's a good question. I think like for me, what works is just finding a mix of like good storytelling and virality, specifically for
Mm,
me, virality. So I'll always try and find a way to make things a lot clickable, like a lot more clickable or a lot more interesting in terms of like virality. So if I look at my channel,
hmm.
giving a bot $10,000 is a wild idea, especially if you watch the video, you'll know like what the bot did to trade those stocks was insane. Or training a AI on 10,000 memes, that's something that is kind of like wild. Like, why would you do that? But because I have the privilege of doing this as my job, I can spend the time and resources to do that one. Like, it might be a waste of time for most people. So that's a good one as well. Or just kind of like going into deep technical topics and then finding ways to make it more interesting to a general audience. So
Mm,
a lot of the times I find the incredible engineering articles from people at Uber or Airbnb, Netflix. These engineers, they'll do a write up on how they did something like scaling to a billion users or something. And these people are extremely fantastic. But at the same time, you kind of have to be in on that kind of engineering to
Yeah.
understand it. So like by creating a bit more of an entertaining and like creative narrative, it makes it a lot more easy for people um, to just go in and do it. So that's been that's kind of like what I find works really well.
I love that. Like making content palatable for larger audiences. That's it's something I was actually just talking to Tejas Kumar, who works over at DataStax, about this previous week because I just got done using a couple of their products for a build that we did in December, and their documentation is clearly not designed for entry level developers.
Mhm.
And I explained that to them. I was like, it's obviously very well written, and I'm sure somebody that might be a senior knows any like half of what this says, but for for a very like green developer such as myself, like if it's not approachable in a way that I can understand it and pick it up fast enough, like am I going to use it?
Yeah.
And you look at content the same way. Like if you're expanding these topics to wider audiences, again, obviously you kind of are narrowing your demographic or your target audience if you don't. So how do you look at like a really technical topic and try to rebuild it from the top down to make it more of a broader understanding? I think you know what I'm trying to say. I
Yeah,
just can't
for
word
sure.
it. Like how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, and funny aside too, the people who sponsored the $10,000 trading bot video was Data Stacks as well.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Shout
and
out to data stacks. We love them.
yeah, it's funny because like part of me thinks like they're like, all right, we're going to sponsor a video, and maybe they'll explore the products, and then I tell them the story about how Taylor Swift has to determine like if you go all in on stocks or not, and they're probably like, oh wow, yeah, this guy's crazy. This guy is absolutely a nut job. So
I like that they're receptive to this type of stuff though, and it does show that they are trying to work with what like the customer wants or the people are saying that they need. Again, having a conversation with Tejas about what my issues were is great. The fact that they let you pitch that and then let you run with it, like again, it shows that they're open to it. So I think that's cool. Do you?
they're
I guess
fantastic people. Yeah.
yeah. I guess speaking even just at a larger scale, outside of data stacks, like do you approach companies or do people come to you and say we were thinking of doing a collaboration and then you get to pitch ideas, or are they bringing ideas to you and then you kind of have to collaborate on that?
It heavily depends. I mean, for the most
Hmm.
part, a lot of the times these companies come to me because usually they have some sort of marketing budget like per
Hmm.
quarter, right? And so they like go to a bunch of influencers and they say, "Hey, we're looking to do this." For the most part, I usually don't like to do things when it's not my idea. So if they're saying like, "Hey, we want you to do this idea," usually there's some sort of like premium that we would have to like figure out, but for the most part, it's always the ideas that I come up with, and that's something I'm very appreciative for. I have a management team that handles all of that, and they're just fantastic.
Wow.
But but to go to your original point about the technical expertise, like kind of like boiling it down to a larger
Hmm.
audience. I think for me, I just kind of what I like to do, and I think this is just good in general for most engineers to do anything like reading that they're trying to understand,
Yeah.
but it's just how can we like boil it to the very top, like how can we make like how can you like simplify something so much to that you can get the point. And usually there is a little bit of a line where it's like, are you simplifying it too much where you're like kind of not explaining it, or are you like a good example is like um like HTTP. If you're trying to explain HTTP, it's just a server talks back and forth to you. That's all you really need to know.
Hmm.
Of course, that there's nuance to it, right? There's lots
Right.
to
Yeah.
understand, but to a general audience, they just need to know what the point of this technology is. Like, what does it do for me when I connect to Discord or when I'm streaming live on Twitch, whatever it is. And I think when you kind of like go to that level, it becomes clear the people who really want to understand, they either already understand or they know where to go to find more information. And for a general person, it's like enough information for them to go to like like a party or something like that. I'd be like, oh, I watched a video where something like that happened. So that's kind of where how I approach it.
They walk up to a couple developers that are talking about like RAG, and they're like, "Oh, I learned what HTTP was from Lewis,
Yeah.
coding with Lewis. You
Oh,
guys know
yeah.
him?"
Yeah. Discord did that. I saw a video about that. Yeah. Crazy stuff. Yeah. Yeah. They're just going crazy. I know.
Oh, that's
Honestly, it's just boiling it down to the easiest stuff because I think just for me, story is the most important part. And so when I use that, I just have to find a way like how is these technologies being incorporated into the story versus vice versa, you know?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Anybody that's just coming in, hello, happy Monday. This is Tech Commute. We have Lewis Menelaws, YouTube's Coding with Lewis here. We're talking about content creation, streaming, just ideas, coming up with ideas, like working with companies, and I guess just getting a better understanding of what you need to do. And maybe you can kind of touch on this a little bit. We just started the new year, and you've been doing this for a little while now. You would say how many years?
Uh, I've been doing the content creation for probably three, three and a
Okay.
half. And then I've been doing it full time as a job for like 2 years, I think.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, how, since you started, and now that we're going into 2025, how have you seen what you're doing sort of evolve? Like, what are some of the changes that you've had to make in order to maintain the trajectory you're on? And then, how does somebody coming into 2025, like, how do they start? Like, what are
Mhm.
maybe some of the things you would be pointing people to do specifically to just get them going as fast as possible?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think for me, how I'm evolving this year, I guess, is like I'm trying to focus more on going back to what my advice would be to those to the people who should make content this year is like just stop caring as much, you know? Like I think for
Mm,
me, I've set like a
mm,
high bar for myself where I feel like I got to make the best videos possible. I got to make sure my videos are as good as this creator or that creator, or I got to make sure all of this, and really it just kind of gets in your head a lot of the time, and you just don't control the algorithm, so you don't know. Usually the
mm.
higher amount of quantity, the more times you get, right? Of being viral or getting more views. So that's kind of like how I'm trying to evolve this year, is trying to be more active and just like going into everything, like being less rigid, I guess you could say. But I think for people who like developers specifically who want to get into content creation, um, you just kind of like have to post. Like I think a lot of people underestimate how much people don't really care about
Mm,
the production quality, I guess you could say, of something. Like if you have an iPhone and you like say you have a tweet idea, well that could be a short idea or a TikTok, right? You just pull up your camera, start talking about something, give your opinion, and then post it, right? Then eventually you
yeah.
kind of start to grow an audience. um, and that's something I would say is definitely the best part. But I think something that a lot of people fall into a trap with is like going viral is easy, but building a community is hard. You know, like you can
Oh,
you can what's it called, go on and I can start saying the what everyone disagrees with, right? Like I can go on and say like every Python developer are idiots, right? Every JavaScript developer are stupid idiots, right? And like people will respond. I might get a lot of views, but like at what cost, right? And that's why
yeah.
I think you always just got to focus on being integral.
Are you Canadian?
Yes, I am. I am.
Was that hard for you to say those mean things about Python and JavaScript developers?
Yeah, I was about to say sorry. I was about to say sorry and log off. Yeah, because I was like, oh, I can't do it. Thank you for bringing it up because now, oh, it's off my chest.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, I had to make sure. I wanted to make
Thank
sure
you.
we got to that. Yeah, I knew that was going to be hard for you, but that was intense. Hot takes with Lewis.
Yeah.
No, I like that. Again, you kind of brought it up, and people were touching on it over here as far as like just getting started. And when you started to where you are now, would there be something that you would have changed?
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely, and I think like Even to this day, I still think it. I think just stop worrying too much about the numbers, right? Like the thing with content creation is that numbers is something that really kind of is what you go into. And a lot of the times when you're making videos, you will make a video, you'll spend a lot of time on it. And with the YouTube system, or I mean, like really any system, right? You'll see the amount of views compared to your previous video or the video that did a couple times ago. And the way it works is always like a roller coaster, you know, like you might eventually you'll slowly be going up over the year period of view, but when you look at your like last 20 days or something like that, you're going to see like a roller coaster go up and down. And a lot
Mm.
of the times you have to think like it's just like you don't worry about how your next video performs, you got to worry about how your next 10 videos perform, right? And then that way you kind of understand like, okay, this is the right direction. Maybe people didn't like this, maybe people didn't like that.
It's hard. We've got a lot of people over here in the comments talking about like wanting to do things,
Yeah.
wanting to. Can't I can't even imagine posting about tech right now. You could always like there's some suggestions here. Somebody's posted, I'm hard enough on myself with my little silly family stuff. I want to make YouTube shorts. How do you tell people to just do it? Like, what is that first step? Like, where's the turning point in these types of stories for you? Because I mean you see it a lot, I'm sure,
Mhm.
especially with content is like viewed as yours in the comments. People are like, oh, I love what you're doing, I wish I could do it. Well, what do you tell those people?
Like it's tough because it's like it's honestly just you just gotta like kind of do it. You know, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
maybe the first part of it is, and like this would have like this is me as well, like maybe there's some embarrassment, you know, like, oh, if I post something, I'll put like, you know, effort, and I'll put my soul, my opinions, my whatever into it. And I am worried that people I might know or people that I don't know are going to think I'm stupid, or they're going to think it's like embarrassing that I'm doing this type of thing. Uh, but like, it just, you know, at the end of the day, it just, no one really, like, no one cares about you. Like,
Mm,
that's in the nicest way possible.
no.
Nobody cares about you. And so, like, that's why I think it's just so important to just do it, because you might think like, oh, the people are going to be haters. There's going to be people that make fun of me that I know maybe, but like just no one cares about you that much. So just to do it, you know, like it's kind of like it's that's like I mean that in a liberating way, not in like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
nobody cares about
yeah.
you, you know.
Yeah, no one cares, guys. Just you heard it here first, but in a good way, the
Yeah,
positive way that's going to release you from that apprehension of doing things and being judged.
just
Lewis,
wake up every single day and just say, no one cares about me, no one likes me, no one loves me, you know, but in the nicest way possible.
say you again. Let's set soundbite. Soundbite. I'm going to get
Yeah,
that, and
yeah.
you can use that. How do you? I guess, and again, this is kind of something just based on some of the stuff people are talking about over here and the apprehensions and dealing with the person that isn't the fan. Like, how have you dealt with that over the years? Like, has that been something that like somebody said something and it just like really rattled you once? Like, how do you work through that and then make the next video?
Oh yeah, that's tough. I mean, the thing is that you'll always get hate comments no matter what, especially in this niche, this industry, programmers. Like with peace and love to all programmers, but some programmers out there are just the like worst, most opinionated people you can meet, and
Mm.
especially when they're behind a screen. You know, they'll just say the rudest thing possible, and it's just first you just be kind of like reassured in what you're doing. So like if you enjoy what you're doing and you feel like you're making a positive impact, then that's good. You know, that's all that matters. But also there's just you're going to get those comments. So like let's say I get like 200, 300 new comments per day, right? And let's say I don't know, two or three of them, or like let's say 10 of them are mean comments. 9 out of 10 of them are just stupid, right? They'll just call you fat. They'll just call you ugly. They'll say you look like, you know, a troll. And those are like they're just kind of funny a little bit. You know what I mean? You're just kind of
Yeah.
like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like if you want to like, okay, you know,
Yeah.
cool. But there's sometimes is those moments where they just found like, you know, it's like the Death Star when like there's that little hole that just blows the whole thing up.
Yeah.
They find that little thing of you, that little insecurity that you have. And you just kind of like, you got to hold back at the end of the day. You know, if you're going in your comment section and saying like, you're a piece of crap, you know, you're an idiot, like, and start spiraling out of control, you still look like an idiot. So you just kind of
Yeah.
lose either way when you respond to these people. So you just
Yeah.
got to tread carefully.
That I just want to highlight this comment here. Leah.
Yes, I
Oh,
am.
yeah,
Yes, I
always great
am.
to have Leah here. Leah's here, Jordan's here, Chris Lane Jones, I see you there. Devon, Michael, great to see everybody. Um, where we touched on the Roblox early on, right? Like we got there. Um,
Roblox or roadblocks?
Roadblock, yes, both.
Oh yeah.
Roblox the game, Roblox the game, and that was kind of the starting point for you as far as learning how to code through scripts and stuff like that. Where did it go from there? Like where were
Mhm.
those next steps? Because again, from there to now, there had to have been quite a bit of learning that was involved. So talk us kind of through that. Were you a boot camp guy? Did you go to school? You got the CS degree? What for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So just for those in the chat, yeah, like Roblox in 2006, the game with the block characters that's still popular to this day. It came out in 2006, and I was 12 years old at the time, and that's when I first got my first programming knowledge ever. But like apart from that, I grew up just doing some minor scripting stuff like on Flash or
Mhm.
something, or you know, with Action Script. I was a big internet person. And so I think when it started to get serious is I went to college, just my local college here, to do computer programming, just to get like a job in like the plants or something that's here, just to make an honest living, whatever. I
Mhm.
never had any aspirations of being like, you know, Facebook, Netflix, whatever. But then there was no jobs here, so just I ended up just starting my own business with my friends, and then that's when we did stuff like we did web design, web development, and then eventually that would lead to software developments. And one of the biggest software things that we worked on was a COVID testing platform for hospitals and health clinics to be able to book patients in
Mhm.
uh, to get like the quick 5-minute swabs. Like, I don't know if,
Yeah.
where are you from, Jason?
I'm up in Western New York.
Western New, well, I don't know if they had them there, but like you'd go through like a drive-through basically,
Oh
and they
yeah.
put it through
Yeah.
their nose. Yeah, so it
Yeah.
was like for that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we worked on for a long time
Wow.
during the peak of the pandemic. So
Mhm.
that's kind of like where I've just been doing lots of development work, and then I think a couple of years later is when I started to just kind of get involved with the content creation, and then years later, here I am.
Wow. Well, that's quite the story. Again, from Roblox to riches. Yeah. um, what's I guess we talked a little bit about the content creation stuff, which obviously you have the privilege of doing full time now. Like this is your job.
Yeah,
This is what you do full time. And what sort of a team do you have around you? Are you doing your edits? Are you the only person that's coming up with your ideas? You mentioned that you have a manager that kind of deals with some of the business client side of it. Like
correct.
how does that all break down for you as far as day to day?
Yeah, so I have my management team. They deal with all of like the deals that I do with companies to like help fund this whole thing. Then I do. Then I have like right now I have two editors, sometimes three. It depends on if I'm doing something else on the other channel, which is just kind of like a side thing at the moment.
Hmm.
But two, for the most part, I still edit the videos as well, but I'm just another editor on top of that. So there's three editors, and then I have someone who designs the thumbnails
Oh, nice.
as like a contractor. Yeah, I've just done that, and so there's so probably like around 5 or 6 people that work around my channel, like close to full time, and it takes a lot to kind of do that. I primarily write the scripts well, sorry, I only write the scripts. Like no one else on my team writes the scripts or really comes up with the ideas. I've talked with other creators in the space who are just fantastic, and sometimes we bounce ideas off of each other. Um, and then I do other stuff too for like other businesses. So like getting into the high quality, high production quality videos that I've done for my thing has also led me to doing jobs for bigger dev companies, which has been awesome as well. So that's another thing that I do as well. So that's kind of like how the whole thing is funded, and that's the whole team behind it. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
wow.
yeah, and again, it's such a privilege to be able to do this. You know.
Yeah, wow. What gosh, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like my gears are. I'm like, wow, if I had that kind of a team behind me, that would be so cool.
Mm.
I'd be like Taylor or like you, where I have like camera people and stuff. No, you mentioned as far as like the polished work, like which is I guess more company facing, not necessarily for your channel, the sponsored content, if you will. What do you prefer? Do you like doing stuff like that, or do you like to lean more into that kind of organic, see where it goes, check out some of the viral things, like more your style? Like what? Or here, let me take a step back. What is Lewis's style?
My style, I think, is over the top, c- cinematic, I guess you could say, and high production. I guess I like to just say high production, but I would
Okay.
say over the top and cinematic programming videos is how you would describe my content. If you go on my videos, a lot of the times I'm not just showing off a block of code. I have to do it in some sort of like 3D tilted way where it comes in like a spaceship or something. It's silly and over the top, but in a fun way. Uh, I think like I always prefer to do my videos over like a brand video that they would post. So like to be clear, I obviously do sponsored content on my channel where like, we talked about data stacks. They came
Mhm.
onto my channel and did a sponsor. But then, I do video work for other companies so they can post on their Twitter accounts or like they
Yeah.
can do their feature launches. I like doing those because it is a bit different and it does allow me to kind of work with another team and clear my head over my stuff. But my stuff is always what I like to do because no one could tell me what I can and cannot do. If I
Yeah.
if I do it, then maybe it performs badly, but at least I could still say I can do it.
Yeah. There's certainly something to be said about like having your content as opposed to like the dictated, like somebody paid me to do this, so I have to do it type stuff.
Yeah.
Um, where do you draw influence? Do you have some specific creators that you sort of reference, or are you more of like off tech influence? Meaning, like, do you have like some directors or styles that you've always like really favored, as far as like even just basics? And again, I might be deep diving a little bit here, but this is my film mind going, and I'm wondering, like where these influences, or like where the idea of like spaceship code comes from for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just like for me, I get my ideas from everything I watch. I like watching cooking videos. I like watching
Hmm.
ASMR videos, gaming videos. I enjoy like traveling videos. So like I just think that no matter what, like the way creativity works is that you'll find inspiration everywhere. And so if I just read, I'm just looking at my idea list right here, and it's just like I think there's so much stuff you can do where you can say like I watched a video about finance or something and I just thought, oh, you know what, like there's the $400 million bug. So there's a bug that cost somebody $400 million, and that's like that'd be an interesting video, to go into the technical details. And so like that's just one way you can do it. um, or like trying to find ways you can travel and do code at the same time. Like, you could do something like coding in a hostel versus coding in a luxury hotel. Obviously, I don't know if I would do that idea, but you can see how like the inspiration kind of comes. And results in some ideas that might be worth trying out or being interesting.
Wow. I liked that hostel or like luxury hotel idea. That would be kind of fun. I wouldn't mind doing that
Yeah, well,
for a
half of
day.
it I wouldn't mind doing. Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing half of it. Yeah. How about this, Jason? You do the hostel part of it. I'll do the luxury hotel, and then we'll collaborate there.
Let's do it. You find the sponsor and let's do it. I will
Yeah,
volunteer for that. We can
cool.
do a collab video. That would be
There we
fun.
go.
I don't mind doing the hostel. I camp a lot. I've roughed it before, and that
That
would be actually pretty exciting. What as far as like as far as ideas, and you just mentioned the list. You've got a list going.
yes.
Brainstorming is obviously super important for this content creation stuff. How do you handle an idea? You've got the list. Where does it go from there? Do you maybe pitch it to the team and kind of flesh it out? Like what's the actual like production process for you?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's a good like I would have it in an idea pile, and then usually I would bring it over to like something I want to explore more. I think of like a title and a thumbnail idea before I even start writing it, because at that point sometimes the videos I make requires me to make software with it, and
Mm,
because of that, like that's just like, we're software developers, we know that software takes time and effort to do. And so it's like, if I'm just going to be building out these softwares, I want it to be at least worth it in some sort of way. So that's something that I have to like consider if it's worth the risk. But yeah, usually it's like it goes from an idea off of a list to the title and thumbnail. And then after I'm like, you know what? I think that's an interesting idea. We start writing it and then putting it out. Yeah, starting the whole production process.
You mentioned sometimes you actually have to develop software, like put stuff together for some of these ideas. Where do you incorporate, if at all, AI into your workflows? Because I mean, obviously, again, there's coding stuff that can be done with that, as far as like LLMs and you got even Cursor now if you use that as far as for an IDE. But you could look at it from the film side too. There's so many things coming for like post production and video editing. Do you incorporate any tools? Like, what are some of the tools you're using, or do you just have an aversion to that altogether? Because that's also a popular take.
Yeah. So it's funny because like for AI coding, what's like tough is that I find that like AI coding is only ever good when you know the project already. But when you start like
Mm.
being like, generate this, then generate that, you start to like now like you're just kind of getting in the way of the AI coding it. And so like
Yeah, yeah,
so you're like, what the hell am I even writing? And then like now you have to read code and it's like, I made this project. Why am I reading it like I just cloned it off of GitHub or something? So a lot of the times I have to be very careful with the way I write my code, which sucks because I also need to make the code fast because I have a video that needs to be done at the end of the day. So I try to use AI as little as possible in my code, but I still do use it a lot, obviously. And then for video creation, there's not really much I do use AI for, to be honest. Like there are times I use like AI to like maybe mask myself out so I can put something behind me, or I
hmm,
use like AI to maybe like put myself into like a different like environment, but then also make it like blend myself in there a little bit better so it looks like I'm not just cut out here and then pasted somewhere.
yeah.
But like not really much in terms of video in the AI side of things or on the video side of things.
Where do you think tools that are built around AI have a home? That like, what are the best use cases for AI in film or like any sort of video production? Okay, I had a
Mhm.
good conversation about that with Ryan Burgess a few months back too, and I see roles for it. I see places where it can help, but again, it's a very similar lane as in software development where it's a great assistant. It's great for X, but not all encompassing. It's
Yeah.
never going to take the job. So where do you see it potentially working in video or content creation?
Probably just in the stuff that is so annoying to do, period. Like I think a lot of the times when we talk about AI, people think about like stable diffusion, like the AI, like image generation, and they're so ugly. They're so like uncanny that like when you see an AI generated image, you just kind of immediately cringe. It just sucks. But at the same time, an AI is able to remove somebody in the background for you, and it does it really well without you even noticing. So it's kind of like using it as a way to enhance like your tools already, I guess, right? Like, because in Photoshop, you technically could have done that 20 years ago, but just now the AI has gotten smarter for that. But one I was thinking of is like naming your files, like your metadata in your file. So
Ooh.
like if you have like if you're doing like a video and you have like a bunch of, because in this type of video, and a lot of people who are watching right now are developers, you probably have your video, maybe you have some b-roll of you on the computer coding, and then you have maybe what's on the screen coding, like what's going on. It'd be nice to be able to say like at timestamp, 42 minutes and 43
Mhm.
seconds, you start talking about implementing React into your Docker application or something like that. And then that way I can be like, oh, there it is, just cut right to there versus like having to like scroll and like look for it yourself. That's what I think AI would be really good for. Cause like that's so easy to do. It's just like, oh, boring.
I actually love that idea, and I feel like even in here, like we're in a browser-based streaming platform in Talk Studio, which is one of Streamlabs products. Um, if I had a hotkey that could mark in my recordings like a gap, like, oh, you just said something that I loved, hit a
Mhm.
button, and that flags, like you get those circle takes, right? Like the spot you want,
Yeah.
that you can then go back and just directly go to, as opposed to skimming or scrubbing like whole bits of video to
Yeah.
find it again. Whereas, or I could also just be putting, oh, look at 42:25, like make my own timestamps. Like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's just like it's a mess to do that type of thing, and I think the AI is there already. Like we have the whisper model, right?
Hmm.
That can like transcribe our text. So maybe if it detects us laughing really hard, it could be like, okay, this moment was probably clippable. And then we also have the like where you can like put an image into the large language model, and that works
Yeah.
pretty well too. So it's just kind of like one of those things where you just think it's got to exist, and those type of things is what is that's not like what people think like, oh, that's going to replace our jobs. It's just going to be like it's going to make it better.
Yeah. No, I love making things better. It's odd that they try to strike such fear. Like
Hmm.
the media just tries to strike this fear in these things, and in reality, it's like it's never going to do what we can do. There always has to be that human element.
Yeah.
Like it's going to make our jobs easier if we learn how to do it. But I think that's the other thing. Maybe you can kind of speak to this a little bit. Like, how should people be looking at AI as developers? Like, what are some of the things they should be focusing on to make sure that they're not maybe getting left in the dust?
I think just like realizing, for me, like what I've always thought is like AI has always just been a tool that you use. There's some people that um I'm just trying to think, like it's kind of like drugs. You know what I mean? Like you take
Mhm.
drugs and you use it to heal yourself, or you could do drugs and become addicted. You know what I mean? Like one is like you kind of determine whether you want to like let it overcome you and stuff, right?
Mhm.
Like obviously a
Yeah.
bit of a crude example, but the point I think is like I think it's just important to realize it's a tool. So like a good example is that if you write a bunch of code and then somebody says like, oh, we need to add this like annoying little feature to a widget that some people it's almost like you'd be more inclined to just say like, here, just enter a prompt and it'll probably like it'll be more likely that you fix it if you just do that prompt and then it works, versus like, all right, well, now I gotta get out of this branch, I gotta move over there, I gotta read the whatever, and that's something that I think is helpful for developers. But there's just so many different ways of going about it. I just don't think you should ever rely on it.
Never. No, that's definitely one of my biggest takeaways is like don't. Again, cool is like that assistant, that tool, like you
Mhm.
said, but never driving. PJ over at GitHub, shout out to PJ. Uh, he made a comment to me a while ago, and he basically said, the reason that they went with Copilot is it was meant to be an aid, not the pilot,
Mm.
not the thing doing it. It's meant to assist. So I really like that, and that always kind of resonated with me. Um, I want
It's always
to.
just something I was just gonna say too,
Oh
is
yeah.
like at the end of the day as well, it's never the AI that people should be scared of. It's the corporations that you should be skeptical of, who think that they can replace you with these type of things, right? Like
Mm,
if people are like, oh, I'm going to be able to replace my developers with a team of AI assistants, then like it's not the AI's fault at all. They just simply predict what your next word's going to be. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like it's the
yeah,
people who think little of your job to the point where they're like, we're going to start replacing
yeah.
you with this thing that gets it wrong 9 times out of 10.
You heard it here first. The corporate overlords. They're
Yeah.
the problem.
Yeah.
It's not ChatGPT, guys.
Yeah.
Um, Oh, I had a follow up question right there and I totally forgot, but I want to just talk a little bit about your setup there. You and I had talked about getting started for content creation and development, and really it's not about the camera, right?
No.
I want to talk about where your influence for your setup came from as far as like the lighting and the feel. I mean, this is a vibe. You got a vibe going. Where did all that stem from, and where should people get started? Like what's the first step as far as look? Obviously doing it is the first step, but
For
as
sure.
far as like this, where should they start?
So, I mean, I always think that like your iPhone camera is good enough. I have a Sony A7 IV right here, and it
Mm-hmm.
has a 1.8 uh, f-stop lens on it, so that's why it kind of like looks a bit blurry in the background when I'm a bit close. But your iPhone is more than good enough, and that's why you should always just start with that. I would say when it comes to lighting, that's the most important part because it's just like how everything kind of comes together. Um, so this light right here is my key light right here, which is so I just turned it off right there, and that does, you can already tell that that does like a lot for me already right there. So that does that. I have 1 second here. Let me turn one on right here. This is the one I usually have on in my videos, but I just didn't do it for this. But let's see, is that going to go on? There we go. So it's usually like a blue light of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to do that just to kind of add a little bit of extra, like, interest, intrigue with the blue, or sorry, the blue and the orange, which is like heavy contrasting colors. This one over here, I have.
There it is.
Yeah, it's a big one. This one goes behind me. And what that does is it kind of like, you can see it in the background there now. One
Yeah.
sec here. But what that does right there
There you
is
go.
it takes it kind of like puts light behind me so that it separates me from the background a lot more. Otherwise, it might be a bit subtle actually. So if I move that over out of the way, you can just see how like I sort of blend in a little bit with the background. So that's what that's for. The ones in the background here, those are the yellow lights are just Govee lights that hang on there, and then behind that is like one of those floor lamps that like are just really long and tall. They just shoot out blue and purple light. But this is just it's called the 3-point lighting. So my camera's
Mm-hmm.
here. Jason, you'll know this, obviously being in film, but like, you have your key light to like, I guess you could say if I'm looking at you, it's over at like 10 o'clock or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that hits your side of your face. Then behind you, so like literally like right across from it, you get one of these lights that hit you in the back, so you can get that, and then you just get kind of like a fun little light that goes to your other side, so you get that blue. And like obviously my setup is a bit more expensive, but you can go on Amazon and get like a $150 setup, and you're golden.
Yeah, there are definitely options, and the thing is, like, your camera setup, not cheap.
No,
Definitely not cheap.
no,
But also not the most expensive. Like even in the
for
Sony
sure.
world, there's you could go like FX series or even way higher, but the lighting is really what's gonna be the key. Those lights, even on an iPhone or on an Android phone, are still gonna pull enough light into the lens to give you a
Yeah.
pretty decent look. And I think that that again is important to remember. What's the influence on the colors? Did you just kind of decide? Because obviously, again, from a gaffer perspective or somebody that's lighting a set, from the cinematographer is looking at lighting and how it affects people's thoughts or emotions in a scene. Where were you on all of this? Like what was that for you? Or did you just, oh, I like that these two contrasts, I happen to like blue and orange or purple, like what was it?
It was definitely like the vibe. I was like, "Oh, that's cool," you know? But
Mm-hmm.
I think also just because I was like, I'm tech, you know, I'm in tech or whatever. I was like, tech is blue, you know, a lot of the time. Like it
Yeah.
kind of gives like a little cyber aesthetic to it. Um,
Okay.
and so like that's just kind of why I did that. And then the orange lights is just because that is the contrast in color. And so it just kind of adds a little bit to it. And so I think that was really it when it comes to that decision.
I dig it. Do you often change like the background? Because I'm assuming you kind of staged it. So it's always just been sort of static. What was the influence there? Because again, inspiration for certain things.
Yeah. I think just for me, if I look at my here, one second, let me go on this side here. If I go to my setup here, it's just literally the things that I own on a bookshelf that kind of
Yeah.
look cool. So I have like the YouTube plaque there, which is great. I have programming books here. I have this thing right here that just like you can put different designs on, but I just have it as a code one because like I gotta how else are people gonna know I code if I don't show binary or something, you know? Just like a little mannequin or like doll right there. I have a Macintosh Plus right there, a little Game Gear, if you know you're old enough to know what that is.
Oh,
Um,
Game Gear. That's
then I
nice.
have like a iMac, so like just like a bunch of tech paraphernalia, like just like
Awesome.
some stuff. Like they're just signals, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
oh, that's you know, with when it comes to YouTube and TikTok and all that, you have to kind of like be like, I'm a developer, you know, please believe me. So
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I set this like little my old monitor back there. So I was like, oh, it'll be cool. I can just kind of, if we have a company that's doing some sort of a collab with us, I can throw their logo on it or whatever.
yeah.
I'm like, okay, but I haven't done that yet, so now I'm just like stuck with a Roku screensaver for now. It's like, all right, whatever,
It
that
does the
works.
job.
Yeah, I mean, for now, and it's drawing the eye. Well, we'll
Mhm.
see. I put some other stuff up there before too, but what what's the most? I guess again for people that maybe wanna in 2025, like Leah's here, she put out her first vlog last year. We've
Oh,
got
nice.
Mike in
Congrats.
here who's done a bunch of different content over the years, and other people trying to get in there. Like, what is the biggest takeaway you want people to get from your content? Um, that that maybe you want to make sure that the people that haven't seen your content yet know, like what's Lewis's message in his content.
Um, it's just all about entertainment, you know? Like, I think there's so much in this niche, there's a lot of ways you can go about programming, and no way is the wrong way. Sometimes you want to be more educational, so you go into a video and you want to teach people. Or sometimes you are like me and you want to entertain people more than you want to educate them. So my videos are somewhat educational. You know, you might learn something here or there, but at the end of it, you're going to kind of more so be entertained. And that's where I kind of have found my place and purpose, I guess, in content creation. And so when you're making your video, just kind of always understand that as well. And also just things grow at different rates too. You know,
Mm,
so like if you're in this programming, um, field, if you do like you know a Astro JS tutorial, you're not going to see like the crazy numbers climb at the beginning because you know people need to search that, right? So you might there's always like a browse versus search, where like if you are on the search, you're you know if you do Astro JS tutorial, you're expecting people to search it and find it, and that does well over time. But then obviously if you do the viral ones where it's like, I built a trading bot and gave it $10,000, you're expecting to people click on it, be like, oh, I got to check that out. And so like just understand that point of view too when you're making your videos. But just also have fun with it. Like a lot of people as well, they try and get into the money side of it. They're like, oh, how much
Mm.
money can I make out of this? Or how much, like, what can I get out of it? The thing is that you won't get anything out of it for a bit. You just got to enjoy it. And if you enjoy it, then good things will come.
I love that. Enjoying what you do, I think, is really one of the more important things.
Yep.
If you're approaching things for, I guess, for lack of a better term, the wrong reasons, like, again, like worrying about the numbers of the money, it just doesn't grow. It doesn't grow the right way. You get frustrated. I feel like you eventually come to resent something that you potentially could have enjoyed. So, um, Lewis, we've got a couple minutes left, and again, thank you so much for being here with us
No
today.
problem.
What is maybe one thing that your YouTube channel doesn't know about you? What's one random Lewis fact that you don't get to talk about a lot because you have such a large following that looks for you for other content? What's something about Lewis?
Oh, good question. That I like to, I guess, just like I like to experiment. I think a lot of the times there's there's times when like you feel like you're put into a certain, I don't believe that being put into a box is limiting to your creativity. I do believe that when you have that box, you are in some way going to become more creative with the whole, like, how can I make this about coding? But I think like in terms of other things, there's lots of things I've always wanted to try, like maybe more general tech,
Mm,
maybe gaming. I don't know. Like for me, I just have interests that take up and consume a lot out of me. That's outside of programming and tech. And I get
mm.
obsessive over it and I want to try it, but I just don't. So I don't know. I don't know if that's the right answer really. I think that's what I think of.
Well, it seems like you work quite a bit. I mean, you're working for yourself at this point, so I'm sure that that does take a lot of your time up. What do you do to sort of balance that as far as like work life balance stuff?
Yeah. So I never had a life before, but I recently just had my daughter, who's 7 months old now, back in
Oh,
June.
congratulations. That's
Oh, thank
awesome.
you. Yeah, and honestly, it's the best thing to ever happen to me, and like that's really changed me a lot. I always think like that's what I do all this for, and it's truly amazing. Um, oh yeah, thank you to
Yeah, everybody's dropping congrats here. That's
yeah,
awesome.
thank you, and also miss some question. And to those who have questions as well, feel free to tweet or DM me or whatever
Hmm.
it's called nowadays. But that's to me, having that has just been the best thing possible. It kind of repositions how I do things now, I guess. And so um, that's kind of like how I balance my work. But that is my life now. So
Some fatherhood stuff. I love that. I have kids myself. I
how many do you
think
have, Jason?
I have three. I have
You
two
sing?
teen. I have I
You
have
said you
three.
sing? Like there's some
No, I
more
do.
like in some
Yeah,
foreign
man.
area?
Yeah. No, I can confirm I have three.
Yeah.
Um, two teenage girls and my son who's 7, who often makes cameos in streams, but he had school today, so he's not here. But
Yeah.
I think I think it's interesting when you have such a like life change like that, where your why changes so much
Yeah.
as to like why we're doing the things we're doing now. And I guess my last question, it kind of ties to that, because this you might have answered this question differently 2 or 3 years ago. What does success look like to you?
Oh, good question. I don't know actually. I really don't know. Because I think beforehand, obviously everyone thinks money, you know what I mean? Like, oh, if
Hmm.
I want to become rich, I want to, but like to be honest, like I think after, making money off of YouTube and doing well on YouTube, it doesn't really do much, and that's a very privileged thing to say. And I very much acknowledge that. And I think that that is an insane thing that you could say, like I am very privileged and lucky to be like that. But I would say like that isn't the thing that kept me going. It was, I think, the love of this. I love programming. I love making new stuff. I love making videos. So I think a success to me just is people keep showing up and saying like, love the video, or that was like some of the best editing
Mm,
I've ever seen, or like this like highly underrated channel or something, like to me, that's kind of like where I'm like that. This is why this is worth doing. And then obviously, here we go again, like Lewis with the freaking sap stories, but like having my daughter too, you know what I mean? Like that's successful to
yeah.
me. That's what I feel so um, privileged by. So that is success. That is how I determine my success at the moment.
Yeah, parenthood is pretty cool. You're in one of those parts of it that's really awesome. You said daughter. Wait till she's 13. That's
Yeah,
all I'll
well,
say to
yeah, the headache. Yeah,
that.
the lack of headache is good right now.
Yeah, that's enjoy it, man. Enjoy those days. It's a crazy time, but Lewis, we're at the hour. I love this conversation that we had.
Me
I'm
too.
very excited to be able to get our editor into some of this to cut it up so I can give it to you for some content. But do you have anything you want to plug? Do you have any videos that are coming out? Any streams? What are you working on right now that people can take a look at coming down the pipe?
Nothing. Just have a lot of new stuff coming out. Just subscribe, follow.
There you go.
That's all you got to do. Yeah.
Here's the links. You go to lewismenelaws.com. He's got all his info there. He's got a really great article. Oh, this is from a
That's
while
old,
ago,
I think.
actually. I
Well,
was
here's
going to
the
say,
thing.
when was the last time you updated this crap, man?
It's very old. So actually, it might not be a good idea to go there. It might be
Yeah,
a better
don't
to
go
go.
there.
It might
On
be
second
or
thought.
go on my YouTube or Twitter, whatever it is.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll help Lewis figure out how to get his goddamn site updated from last year.
Yeah.
But anyway, Lewis, thank you again. Thanks to we got Jordan, Jeff, Roxy, Chris, Mike, Richard, Leah, always a pleasure to see you. I said Jeff. There's so many of you here. We had a bunch of people tuning in on Twitter. We will see you guys soon. Make sure you hit the Torque Discord. Come and say hi, or find me on Twitter as well. All right, we'll see you soon. Thanks again, Lewis.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Jason.